If you'd like to be able to listen to the show without ads and have full access to bonus content, that's an option. To find out how, please go to dogmenencounters.com/podcast. Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us for this special midweek episode of Dogman Encounters Radio. Really appreciate you being here. As the years have ticked by, it's been over 10 now, there have been certain episodes that really stand out that caught the listener's attention more than others due to the creep factor of the encounters that have been talked about and shared. Well, tonight's guest, Hondo, he was featured on episode 130, and there's just something about the nature of his encounter that really got a lot of attention and seemed to stay on people's minds. Well, it had been a while since I had heard from Hondo. I think I heard from him about a year, maybe a year and a half ago. He just reached out to me to touch base with me, but I didn't have any thoughts about him ever coming back on the show. I was hoping that after he had those experiences that he talked about in episode 130, that would be it. Well, I didn't realize it, but he had already started having experiences after that episode aired. And it really makes me wonder what the future might hold for him. Well, with all that said, let's not waste any more time. Let's bring him in here now. Hondo, thanks so much for coming back.
Hey, Mr. Cundiff, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, but do me a favor and please just call me Vic. Call me Mr. Cundiff. It's like putting a screen door in a submarine. It just doesn't fit.
I understand that, sir. I've been in one of those, and it wasn't a great experience.
Huh. No, I bet it wasn't. Yeah, that couldn't have been a good time. Hondo, since it's been so long, it's been over 7 years now, since you're featured on that show, episode 130, I'm sure there are a lot of listeners who missed that episode, or maybe they're just trying to catch up on all the episodes out there. With that in mind, please give us a bio on yourself.
Hey, folks, I go by the name Hondo. It's my call sign in the military. I've got over, 26 years military experience, over 24 with special operations. Retired out. I'm an avid hunter. Love bear hunting. Love running my bear hounds. Fishing, camping. Just an avid outdoorsman. Try to be a peaceful guy, but sometimes life is unexpectedly turns a twist, and you've got to bring those military aspects back to life, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, that you do. You definitely do sometimes. Over the years, there have been people, some tough customers who have had a hard time. It seems like it wasn't just the Dogman encounter they had a really hard time dealing with, but it's almost like their pride was hurt because they consider themselves to be such tough guys. They thought that even by having a Dogman encounter, and in some cases, bad ones too, but they almost felt ashamed by how their encounters affected them. And I've tried to explain them. There was one eyewitness who I think he's 6'5", 6'6", and he was the bare knuckle fist fighter on the weekends. And he did it for money, and not because he wasn't good at it either. He was good at it. He was a tough hombre. And he had a Dogman encounter and felt really bad about fear that he felt and all that. And I tried to explain to him, what you were up against, it doesn't matter what you brought to the table as far as toughness. You were outclassed by so much that, you're right on the same level as a little boy compared to this thing that you encountered. So don't feel any shame. Well, if someone like you with your credentials, all those years of experience in the special forces, a Delta operator, all that, if you were affected by your encounters the way you were, then, no one should feel embarrassed at all by being fearful after having experience with one of these guys.
Hey, listen, Vic, I'm not ashamed to say it. Hey, yeah, you know what? I had to change my drawers. It is what it is. Listen, you're not facing a fighter standing in front of you, bare knuckles. You're not facing Taliban. You're not facing Al Qaeda. with, guns. It's 350 pounds, maybe 500 pounds of teeth, fur, fangs. I mean, the ultimate apex predator. So if somebody's butthurt about, facing one of these things, that I don't know what to say. I mean, Jesus, I was scared to death. I mean, I'm terrified now. I mean, honest to God, I'm literally looking over here to make sure my pistol is beside of me because I've got my garage door open here in Tennessee. And I'm surrounded by bear hounds. And as you know, I sent you a picture of my wolf on her birthday. I don't know if you got that text or not. She's eating her birthday cake.
I did. And she's a big one too.
So she's upwards of 156 pounds now. So, and I should feel safe here, but I would have 3 or 4 years ago. I don't now. So, I mean, listen, people that are afraid of these things, they are smart. I'm scared to death of them. I mean, I honest to God, I really am. They scare me to death.
Yeah, rightfully so. Yeah, when you strip away all the toughness and all the experience that anyone has, their size, all that, they're still so outclassed by one of these things that, I mean, you are human underneath all that. They realize, whether on a conscious or only a subconscious level, they realize how severely outclassed they are, and that's where all that fear comes from. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you are only human after all, so it's only natural when you feel that way. It just really hurts when you talk with someone. It seems like they're more they're more wounded from their fear. The fact that they are so afraid when they think they shouldn't be because they're supposed to be so tough. It's just really sad when you run into someone like that who just can't, almost has a harder time dealing with that than the actual encounter itself, is what I'm trying to get at here. It's been so long since you came on episode 130 there and told us about that first encounter that I'm thinking, if you don't mind, could you walk us through what happened that night when you did have that first encounter, so that it kind of sets the table and it'll ring a lot of bells in people's minds who maybe haven't listened to that episode in years upon years?
Oh, absolutely. First and foremost, listen, people that they are, I think the fear of, being afraid, if that makes any sense, that, I mean, come on now, Jesus. You just experienced something that you've never experienced before in your life. You've met the ultimate killing machine, and you're ashamed of being afraid? No. I mean, admit it. You just faced down pure evil and you walked away from it, ran away from it. I hope you didn't try to run. I mean, obviously, if you did, you definitely wouldn't be here to tell your story, So, listen, there's always bigger, badder, tougher people out there than you, and definitely things like I guess Dogman. I mean, so God, listen, I don't blame them for being afraid. I mean, I'm scared to death. Every operation I ever went on, I was afraid. Yeah, I mean, there's that fear factor. But your training kicks in and you learn to kind of push that to the back of your mind and worry about the operation, worry about what you got to do, what your job is. Your brothers beside you, in front of you, behind you, are dependent on you. So, you've got to be on your toes on that. So having said that, back
Not
in
to interrupt you there, sir,
2016.
but let me interject really quick. You're sitting, it sounds like your chair is squeaking and creaking a lot. Is there any way to replace that chair with something else to sit on? Because it's kind of making it hard to focus on what you're telling us.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, I've got a cur dog that just absolutely loves to jump on a chair over here. So let me move that. So yeah, back in 2016, fall of 2016, I just got back off a tour from Afghanistan and got home, and everything's kind of closing in on me. So I wanted to get out and just, I was home on leave, so I decided to go up to the mountains, a place called a Nick Patch. So I just grabbed MRE. I wanted to still stay in shape, fighting shape. So I put on my plate carrier. All I took was a couple of MREs, my plate carrier, went hiking. I think it was like 5 miles. But anyway, make a long story short, I met some people coming down, 2 females and a male. They was happy go lucky. So, I didn't think anything was up, I mean, nothing that would throw off my spider senses. If they were acting weird, then, something might be going on, but no. So anyway, went up there, built a fire, chilled out, relaxed. And that's when it happened. If people could go back and, do episode, what was it, 130?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Episode 130. So I have never heard of one of these things before. I mean, yeah, I've heard of a werewolf. As far as the movies go, I've got some Native American in me as far as Cherokee. A little bit, maybe a 16th, maybe. I'm more Danish, Viking than anything. Go figure, right? So that night, everything was peaceful. Everything just, birds were going to bed. Everything was getting ready to go to sleep. You know how animals do. The night creatures were just starting to come out. And I think it was about maybe hour, 2 hours. I think it was like 0100, 0130 when this actually started happening. I swear to you, I believe the wind stopped blowing. I heard a crack, if memory serves me correctly, like a large branch breaking that was laying on the ground. And any of you hunters out there know when something snaps on the ground. I mean, you could tell it's a different sound than it falling from a tree. So that kind of got my attention. I got up, and this thing, which I literally at first, I don't think I explained this well in the first episode, but now thinking back at it, I thought it was a bear at first. I mean, I was like, holy crap. So I jumped up. This was no bear. This thing was absolutely huge. It had the head of a wolf. Had to be 350 some pounds. But anyway, you guys could go back to episode 130, and Jesus, I got chills thinking about it now. Honest to God, I've got goosebumps. It absolutely terrifies me. But anyway, there was a pretty big standoff there. This thing came at me on all fours. I stood up. I put my back to the fire because I heard that sound, and before I saw it, I wanted to get my night vision. So I put my back to the fire, and I wanted to get my night vision back, so to speak, because your ocular lens, there's that light differential there, so you want to get used to that darkness and have your eyes trained to pick up on in low light situations. So anyway, I did that, and then that's when this thing came out. Oh God, I'm sorry, Vic. I'm trying to keep my stuff. um, some of the experiences I've had here lately, everything's just kind of coming back to me. But so I got up, I got on the balls of my feet, and I drew my knife as this thing charged. It stopped. It stood up on two legs. That is definitely not a bear. It stood up on two legs. It looked at that knife. It knew exactly, I swear, I believe it knew exactly what that knife was. And it's an old Filipino bolo knife. It's an old Filipino, fighting knife, which they used in World War II, and they still use them today. I absolutely love it. Matter of fact, I've still got it. It backed up, and when it did, it let out a roar like I have never heard before in my life. It felt like it was going through my soul. This thing came in and out at me almost all night long. It used tactics like no other animal that I've ever known before in my life. It would try to outflank me. It would try, noise discipline. It's off the charts, the intelligence that these things have. When I finally egressed out of there, God, I think the sun rose at maybe 0530, 0445. Or 0545, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. I don't know. It's been so long. But when the first rays of light, those blessed rays of light started showing, I started to egress. Of course, I made sure the fire was out, at least tried to anyway, but I really wasn't worried about it because I really wanted to get the heck out of there. And got out of there. So yeah, that was my very first experience with that, and it's terrified me to this day. I mean, I still have dreams about it every now and then.
Well, I'm sure you do. You have an experience like that. You had some work to do out in the field after that as an operator. How compromised were you after you finally saw with your own two eyes what was really out there in the dark and what could possibly be out there in the shadows wherever you went and were deployed?
Well, uh, when I went back in, I, on missions, it's all about the mission. It's all about the plan. I really didn't think about that. I concentrated on my job, what I was supposed to do, and of my team. If that makes any sense. I really didn't. I mean, of course, I'm sure it was in the back of my mind, but being Afghanistan, Iraq, whether it's Africa, wherever else, that I've done stuff which I'm not going to go into because I've signed NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. Really didn't concentrate on it, but sometimes, it was in the back of my mind, but I really wasn't worried about it at the time because hey, look, I've got some of the best guys. Actually, I know for a fact the best operators in the world with me. So maybe that's why, I didn't worry about it that much. If that makes any sense. These guys are the alpha males. These guys are the door kickers.
Yeah, you had some good men around you, that's for sure. I'd say some of the most capable men that there are in the world around you. So, yeah, that's going to bring a lot of comfort to almost anyone. It really is. Well, Hondo, let's play catch up now, and please tell us about everything that's been going on and that you've experienced since you're on episode 130 now. Please take your time and be as descriptive as you possibly can be.
Yes. Well, I'm sorry, Vic. I hate to have to admit this, but I haven't kept up with Dogman encounters as much as I should. First and foremost, I should apologize for that, but it's just something that once I made my peace, and after everything that happened, I kind of closed that chapter in my life. I actually had some closure. That's something we haven't talked about. Maybe you and I could talk about it one-on-one at some point. Like I said, I don't want to get in trouble with certain entities out there. But I got married to the girlfriend that, I'd mentioned back in 2017, and moved to Greenville, Tennessee. There in the city, and we lived there for 2 years, and then decided to buy some property out here in Greene County, and absolutely still love it out here. I bought a cabin with 10 acres, and everything was great until here recently. Actually, August. Believe it was August 26th or August. It's between August 26th and August 28th. It's what I've got in my diary. I'm horrible about keeping my diary. But anyway, kind of going through a divorce, what actually went through a divorce. So everything was just kind of doom and gloom there. And I just decided to drive up on top of the mountain and sit. And anybody knows Viking Mountain here, you can drive up on top of Viking Mountain and you can look out and you can see Greenville, Greene County, all the lights. It's beautiful, especially on a clear night. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It's about 70 degrees. Yeah, I know that's the sniper in me. I always keep, what the humidity is and everything else. I know I'm a dork or I'm brain dead, either one. So went up there. I drove up there, and there was I'm assuming it was a male and a female. I don't know. I mean, nowadays, really don't care. In a blue Honda. I'm sure they was doing something. Anyway, I just kind of threw my arm out the window like, hey, I mean no harm. And I just drove on by, and I parked at the very end of the parking there. So I sat, I had a couple of root beers. Not believe it or not, Barks root beer. Brought some Barks root beer, and my old hound dog, Winchester. Yeah, I know. I am a redneck when it comes to naming dogs. I mean, come on now. Yeah, he kind of gave me some grief on the blue ticks, but hey, I love my blue ticks. You can't be a Tennessee bear hound guy without a blue tick. But anyway, we sat up there, and I guess we sat there for maybe an hour, just, kind of looking out. And Vic, honest to God, I have never heard, well, I have, but it was unbelievable. A sound that, oh my God, will absolutely reverberate through the mountains. It was like a hoot. All right. It sounded like an ape. Okay. Yeah, like oh God, I don't know. Some kind of large monkey. And then all of a sudden, I heard a sound that I will never forget, because I experienced it myself as I faced it several years past. And it couldn't have been more than 500 meters down the ridge of where I was parked at. So it was two distinct sounds and then it sounded like the whole mountain was getting tore out. This went on for almost 5 minutes. I've never heard anything like, I mean, within the first 30 to 45 seconds, the people that was, doing what they was doing there in the old blue Honda, they fired that sucker up and they headed out. I guess they thought I was a complete moron for sitting there. But maybe I should have left, but it was, I've heard that sound before and I knew exactly what that was. But there was branches breaking. I mean, it sounded like trees were being snapped in half. The screaming, I'm not going to say howling. It was, I can't describe the sound that this thing made, but it was a fight for fights. I mean, listen, if Ali and Joe Frazier were fighting today and they weighed 500 pounds apiece, that would definitely be the rumble in the jungle. That's how loud that was. And I estimated it was about 500 meters. I'm pretty good at estimating ranges, but it was absolutely unbelievable. I've never heard anything like that before. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying it was Sasquatch and Dogman fighting. I don't know. I couldn't see. I mean, it was dark. It was right at 11:30ish, something like that. I have no clue. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But I've heard that these things don't like each other, which, hey, I don't blame them. If I was Bigfoot, I wouldn't like Dogman either, But after that, I kind of started researching it more. And I guess they do from time to time run into each other as far as they're migratory, or at least that's what some researchers say, that dogmen are kind of migratory. So every now and then they kind of have a run-in with each other. I don't know. I mean, what is your input on that, Vic?
Well, normally I think they mix like oil and water, but there have been some credible eyewitnesses who've reported over the years seeing them interacting with each other. So I guess under certain circumstances, they do mix and they do apparently work together. But yeah, I think normally that's an exception and not the rule. I think they try to stay separate. It seems like in certain areas where there's a definite presence of both, normally you're going to find some type of a dividing line, be it a creek or a mountain range or something where, okay, that's Sasquatch territory. On this side is Dogman territory. That's not always the case, but there are a lot of instances where people have noticed that. Someone who actually lives in an area where they've got both around, someone who's been in that area for a long time, they've had the time to notice, okay, well, anytime on this side of the creek, I've had Sasquatch experiences. If I've had Dogman encounters, they've always been on that side of the creek. So, yeah, there are credible eyewitnesses out there who've reported that sort of thing. But like I said, that's not always the rule. There are exceptions, it would seem.
Okay, well, that's something that I meant to ask you when we spoke, but I wasn't for sure. Like I said, I don't know much about Bigfoot. My people with Cherokee, we respect them, but we don't talk about them. I know in other Native Americans, as far as the Dogman goes, that's definitely taboo. I mean, you don't speak of it. I guess it's in the same category as a skinwalker, maybe. I don't know. But I know they are flesh and blood. But that was just that was unbelievable. I mean, as soon as I heard that distinct sound, and it brought me right back to Shady Valley where I had my experience, and I was frozen. I mean, yeah, I always go armed. I mean, I was, I had my pistol in my hand, but I still stayed there like an idiot for some reason. I mean, I knew it was far off. I wish to God, like we talked about, if I could have been 500 foot up in the air and watched it on a thermal, that would have been a fight. I'm assuming that's what they was. There's no other explanation for all that racket going on for almost 5 minutes. I mean, I didn't time it, but it seemed like 5 minutes. I mean, they really going at it. I mean, literally, it was like life and death. I mean, these two entities or creatures or monsters, whatever you want to call them, they were, really going at it. But I wasn't stupid enough to go down there the next day to look and see what happened either, because I kind of know better, especially after my experience. So that, like I said, that happened in August. So as everybody knows, Hurricane Helene really clobbered us here in Greenville, especially in North Carolina, Western North Carolina. I mean, it really nailed us. It flooded our Nolichucky River. We lost 2 main bridges, almost lost the bridge on the old asphalt highway. It was compromised there for about 24 to 48 hours. I actually could not get back to the house to check on my dogs, which are my babies. And if y'all have listened to episode 130, my dogs are my babies. I absolutely love my animals. So I was kind of freaking out about that. But anyway, Hurricane Helene hit and really clobbered us. It was god awful. So finally got home, checked on my dogs and my 2 cats. Somebody dropped off 2 cats, and lo and behold, I get to take care of them. Anyway, I decided, I heard that, people in Black Mountain, North Carolina, on the other side of Madison County, just literally like 5 miles from where I live, really got hit hard. I mean, they lost homes. There was people missing, and I had a buddy that former 160th SOAR pilot, and he actually flies Hughes 500s, which, if you guys don't know, that's our little birds, what we call them, Special Forces little birds, M86s. But this is civilian type, and he flies to survey power lines and stuff. I reached out to him and asked him if he was in the area and if he could get me over into North Carolina to fly in. And he said, absolutely. So I grabbed a couple of med packs that I had left over from my quote unquote glory days. And he flew me over into North Carolina because there was no other way to get in there except for helo at the time. So I went in there, inserted, set up triage. There was one doctor that was there local. I'm not going to say his name. I don't want to, point anybody out, whether good or bad. So I did that for about 3 or 4 days. But anyway, we heard of a family that was got off about 3 miles up, and we got access to some 4-wheelers. So I said, well, we at least need to go in there and check on them because they've got kids. So we geared up and we went up there to get this family out, which we did, and brought them back. The little girl had a couple of broken fingers. I can't remember how she broke them, but we got them set and patched up. But anyway, this same family, about 2 days later, I was talking about going back up there because I heard rumors that there was a couple of other people up in there in that particular valley. And the gentleman come up to me and said, no, you really don't want to go up there. And I was like, well, sir, why? I mean, we need to get these people out. And he's like, you really don't want to go up there. Well, it took some pushing and coaxing and trying to talk to him. So he finally pulled me to the side and he said, look, son, I know what you are. He saw my tattoos, Special Forces. He said, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to tell you what you can or can't do. But he said, I'm telling you, you don't want to go in that valley. So he finally started talking to me, and he opened up to me and he said he was deer hunting the year before. He had a tree stand, not, I don't know, maybe 350 meters from his cabin, which lives on the side of the ridge, facing down the northwest, if I'm not mistaken. If memory serves me correctly, I believe it's the northwest. He said he was deer hunting, and it was upwards. It was almost 30 minutes before, evening, which is no shooting after that. I mean, right before dark. And he had some deer come out. He was waiting. There was 3 or 4 doe, and he was waiting. He knew there was a buck coming because it was right in the rut. That's what he said. So he was waiting and waiting and waiting. Then all of a sudden, he said the buck come crashing down the ridge. The doe scattered. The buck, was hauling hind end. And he said he just had a feeling that something was chasing me. He figured it either was a dog or a coyote or, whatever. And he's like, well, I'm going to kill the sucker. So he looked over, and when he did, he said this big black shape come flying out through there. And he said he turned that safety off of that Remington 700. And he said as soon as it clicked, that thing skidded to a halt, which was on all fours. And he said, boy, I'm telling you, it stood up on 2 legs, looked up, and turned and looked directly at me like he knew exactly where I was at. And he described to me verbatim that it had the head of a wolf, tail. He described the hands just like he said, son, they was like raccoon hands, except a heck of a lot bigger. He said it had to have been over 7 foot tall. He said it was almost pitch black. He said when it turned and looked at me, he said it bared its teeth, and he said he saw fangs. He said that looked almost ungodly. He said it scared the living what out of him, and I'm keeping it PG, Vic. He said I was absolutely terrified. It turned, it looked, it sat there, and it stared at him. He said, which seemed like forever. He said, but it was just a few seconds. It casually got back down on all fours, walked around a little bit, almost like in a zigzag, stopped, got up, and looked at him again on 2 two legs and then walked on two legs. He said he's guesstimating. I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. He said 10 to 15 feet and then got back down and then ran off. This man said he sat there, got on his cell phone and called his brother, which is a sheriff's deputy up there, to come and get him out. And that same sheriff's deputy, he called over the next day and verified that story with me. And that spoke volumes. I believed the man because he was absolutely shaken when he was telling me that. But the next day, that sheriff's deputy was there. And he said, "Ed, I want you to come over here and talk to this man here." And we sat there and talked for a while. And he said, "I've already told him what happened." And he said, "I want to hear, you tell him what happened." And that sheriff's deputy did, verbatim. So, there's no reason for these people to lie to me, especially for what I was up there doing. Vic, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir, I do.
I mean, it's not that far from where I live. I mean, literally, it's 37 miles as the crow flies, or as the Dogman runs, or however you want to put it. I mean, there was some others that kind of, he introduced me to some other people that, kind of had their feelings about it also. I mean, so it's something that they know about, but they really don't like to talk about. But I mean, people are afraid of it up there. So evidently, I mean, people have experienced this thing before. I mean, maybe not like this gentleman did. Maybe they heard it, or heard somebody that, heard of somebody that saw something like that. But I mean, people are really afraid of this thing up there. And look, I don't blame them. I mean, Jesus, I'm scared to death of it myself. So it's, all this is just why this is happening now. It's just kind of got me thinking of, the experiences that I had and what I did later on. I mean, is this a blood for blood type deal? What? But it's really not about me. It's just, I don't know why this has come back in my life, since it's been so many years ago that I've had this experience. But unfortunately, that's, not it. Let's see, when was that? I've got to look in my note here. I believe it was, oh, I've got it right here, Vic. I'm sorry. No, here we go. Opening day of muzzleloader season. I was setting out glass, and I've got some property that I hunt on, and it neighbors a 250 acre property. And usually the deer come out through there, and I could glass them and wait till they get, on the property that I'm allowed to hunt. Matter of fact, I'm allowed to hunt on both now. But it's early evening. I'm thinking it was, God, it was almost about 45 minutes before dawn, before the sun set. I was watching some deer, and all of a sudden, I mean, I'd been watching them for 30, 45 minutes. You know, he's got a big clover patch up there. So they usually take their time. They eat their clover, then come over and they start eating sweetgrass where I hunt. All of a sudden, I start seeing a whitetail, a whitetail, a whitetail, a whitetail. And any hunter out there knows when you see a whitetail on a whitetail, you know they're getting ready to book it. They all started hauling the male. I mean, they were motivated. And I was like, what in the world? And I was looking through a spotter scope. So, I mean, I had a wide view. I see two small black shapes. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's flipping coyotes chasing them. So I was getting ready to get the 0308 and start throwing some lead on the coyotes. You know, I can't stand coyotes. Anyway, sorry for any of you coyote lovers out there. They're a nuisance around here. But I got to looking further. I was like, my God, they're huge. Vic, I'm telling you, these were not coyotes. I've got a wide angle spotter scope. Sorry, military. I may or may not have kept one. Anyway, yeah. I mean, very detailed spot and scope. I mean, you can really, they're top of the line. Sharp ears. If this was a coyote, they were both black. And they both had to have weighed over 150 to 175 pounds apiece. I'm guesstimating I was approximately 560 meters, maybe a little farther than that away from where I was at. But and then I was like, well, it's got to be, it's probably a bear. I was like, well, there's not two bear chasing two deer. Bear usually don't do that, but you could actually see the lean muscle when these things are running. I mean, this happened really quick. I mean, they covered about, I want to say 100 meters. I mean, extremely fast. I swear up and down, if I, in my mind, I could pause and I could see it. I believe they were juvenile dogmen. And I really don't want to think that way, but that's the only explanation I've got. I know they wasn't bear. I know for a fact they weren't coyotes. There's no way. And I've never seen a bear move that fast and that lean ever. Matter of fact, I've never seen a bear chase a deer. And I've been hunting bear for a long time. Matter of fact, I've been up close and personal with bear in a laurel thicket. Hounds on top of the bear on the hounds, and have to crawl in there and put a pistol in its head and shoot it before it kills one of the hounds. There's no way that could have been a bear. No way. And there was two of them. So I can't explain it. I've heard weird stuff, hunting in that area before. I've heard some hoots. I've heard branches breaking. I mean, at first I thought it was the cows, but then I start looking and I know all of his cows. I know how many cows he's got because I always got to keep track of his cows because I don't want to shoot a deer and the bullet, the trajectory passed through the deer and injure one of his cows. I just, I'm good like that. I don't want to, have fratricide, so to speak. I want to respect somebody's property and people's livestock. So I don't know of anything that big unless it was a 500-600 pound bear making sounds like that in the woods. I don't know. It's like I've got more questions than I do answers at this point, Vic. And I'm afraid. I'm man enough to admit it. This stuff going on, I don't know what to do at this point.
Well, my best advice would be to keep on doing what you're doing. I think you're going to be just fine. If you think about all the time you've spent out in the woods, I mean, you're a bear hunter from way back. If you think about all the time you've spent in the woods and how many opportunities these things have had to take you out, but they never have, then that right there is going to tell you everything you need to know. I'm never going to say that you can't run into a deviant one that will hurt you if it gets the opportunity, because anything out there, you name it, you're going to have deviant examples, even people. But odds are you're not going to run into one of those. And that right there is why, after all these years and years that you've been spending in the woods, you haven't had a single hair in your head harmed. That's a testament to that. But yeah, to answer your question, I think the best way to handle this is just to keep on doing what you've been doing. And I think everything's going to be just fine. I really do. Now, I know it's one thing to hear that and to implement that, but when you're sitting there and you've got your dogs around and the garage door's up and sitting with your back to that open garage door at night, I know it's easier said than done. And I understand that. I get that. But yeah, as long as you just try to stay straight and level with your thoughts regarding the fact that these guys are definitely out there, I think you're going to be just fine. I really do.
Well, I hope, pray to God, you're right. I mean, I don't want to have another showdown with one. I mean, if that's what you can call it, I mean, I know for a fact these things could bleed. I know they're made of flesh and blood. I mean, I have spilt their blood. I know that for a fact. I don't want another confrontation with these things. I really don't. But at the same time, God, I don't know how to put this. I feel like something's coming. There's something that's going to happen at some point that's going to bring all this back to fruition again. And I really don't want that.
Well, hopefully that's not going to happen. Some people have the mindset that if you focus on any one thing too much, the odds of it actually coming true are heightened. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but at the same time, why tempt fate? So I try not to get.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and unfortunately, and it's kind of why I hung my guns up there, for a while. I stopped following all this. I made my point, to them, and I just, we had our issue. We're done. And I just want to be left alone. And I think, like you and I talked about, I believe that they respected that in some kind of weird way. I don't know. But, why now? Why all this happening now? All within the last 6 months. And, another thing, speaking of bear hunting, back the second day of opening bear season, some guys from North Carolina was over here on the Tennessee side. It was, oh God, I don't know. It was right at daybreak. And I was getting ready to go up to meet my buddy at his cabin up there on Viking Mountain Road. And stopped. I mean, there was a guy coming out of the woods. I mean, his hounds beat him to the truck. I mean, literally. So I stopped. I was like, hey, you guys on one already? And he said a couple of expletives. basically, no, 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 and I'm not going back up there ever. Because evidently they thought they'd got a hit on a bear, and they let some of their hounds loose. And those hounds, and those hounds, Vic, bear hound ain't afraid of much. They're just not. I mean, they will stand and fight a bear. Well, they're ignorant. They're kind of like me. They just don't care. He said he dropped that tailgate and let them dogs out. And he said it wasn't 15 minutes later. He went after the dogs, kind of track him, had his Garmin. He said the dogs almost run over top of him. He said he heard the god-awfulest racket that ever was, and some kind of roar. He said the dogs almost run over top of him, getting back the other way. So whatever it was scared the living daylights out of those dogs. Yeah, I can't think of anything that scare those dogs. I know those old boys. They're out of Madison County. I know them. And they've got some very good dogs.
Did you say if those were plot hounds?
Some were plot. He had a couple of red ticks, and he's got one walker, if I'm not mistaken. Oh God, what's that walker's name? I walked it out of the woods a couple of years ago. Oh God, hang on a minute. Hank. Oh, Hank. It's his walker dog. Hey, that walker dog's a good dog. But old Bob, he swore it down. He's not going to go back up in there. He's not going to cut loose up in there anymore. He said, I don't know what it was. He said, I've never heard anything like it. I mean, he was throwing dogs in the truck as I was coming down because I thought they was on the scent of one.
Wow. Yeah. Beer dogs, they don't turn and tuck tail and run for the truck like that. If they beat him to the truck, yeah, that tells me everything about their mindset.
No, he said, son, I'm telling you, they almost run over top of me. I mean, I was laughing at him at first. And I was thinking, God, they run into a cougar. Then I was like, they'd probably ran that cougar. But once he described that sound, he said, I've never heard anything like that before in my life. I mean, I've got to laugh. I mean, it's funny because, I've been in his place before. You understand what I'm saying? So, at least I'm not the only one that experiences something like this. And, hey, all the dogs made it out. All the dogs were smart enough to run. Thank God. It's kind of funny that, you let actually it was 5 hounds that he cut loose, and he said every one of them almost run him over getting back to the truck.
Yeah, that is a pretty funny visualization when you think about what that must have looked like, but I don't blame him. That would have shaken anyone up. Poor guy. That's not good at all. I was
trying not to laugh. I mean, but at the same time, it kind of scared me. I'm like, oh, great. Well, man, here I am. I've got my dog box loaded full of hounds too, my babies. So I decided I wasn't going to hunt on Viking Mountain. I was going to go down there to Green Mountain to hunt some. Yeah. I don't get it.
Well, some people are just magnets for these things, and unfortunately, considering all the experiences you've already had to date, I really don't think you are done as far as having experiences with these guys. But like I touched on a bit ago, please never lose sight of the fact you've had all these experiences and ones that never happened that could have happened because they were watching you, following you, monitoring you, but they never pushed the issue. They definitely never hurt you. As long as you keep all that in perspective, then yeah, you can deal with this. I know it's easier said than done, but yeah, you can definitely deal with this. And as you know from our conversations, I go into the woods when I can, spend time out there to clear my head, and I'm still here. I mean, how many times have I've walked hundreds of miles without a gun in those woods? Not because I'm put off by guns, but when I was doing what I was doing, didn't really have a need for a gun at the time. I'm still here, no problems. And you want to talk about a perfect big woods for dogmen and for Sasquatch. I mean, if you could draw one up, this would be it. It's got the trademark animals you'd expect to see that basically let you know that it's a prime forest for dogmen and Sasquatch. It's got everything. But I'm still here and I still go on walks and spend time in the woods when I can sneak away and do it. So if I'm doing that, knowing what I know about these things, then yeah, you can still get out there and enjoy yourself too. You really can.
Well, I mean, Vic, you're a braver man than I am. I mean, but I will tell you this.
No, no, no.
I have definitely been reloading 10 millimeter. Yeah, I've definitely been reloading a lot of 10 millimeter here lately, especially the Lehigh 165 grain extreme penetrators. Hey, look, I don't want to shed any more blood. I don't want to trade any more blood with these things. I want to be left alone, but I just really got a feeling, something is going to happen at some point. Now, here's another thing. Animal control was out there on I can't give the name of my road, but out on my road looking for a dog once. This was a couple of weeks ago, and me and my brother was out there, and we got to talking with the guy. He's a good old dude. And I say, no, I haven't seen that dog. Of course, I wouldn't tell him if I did, not going to lie. I don't want to see a dog or hear of a dog getting put down. You know what I mean? And, this was after my experience out in the woods there. And I was like, listen, you guys are, on call basically all the time. He said, yeah. I said, have you got any weird calls about any strange noises or anything? He's like, it's funny you should say that. And I looked at my brother. My brother looked at me. He goes, I've confided in my brother before. And he got to telling us about something that happened to a farmer on Kelly Gap Road. Farmer went out to his barn to feed his cows. One of his cows was expecting a calf, was going to feed them and then check on them. And he said, the farmer, I'm trying not to laugh because I could just picture myself in, this poor old farmer's shoes going out there with some sweet feed. And he said, as soon as he opened his barn door, he said the huge back door almost went off the hinges. He said, it's the god awfulest sound you ever heard in your life. It's like a hoot, 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 hoot or something. The animal control officer was trying to explain to me how it sounded. So it didn't sound like a dog man. I mean, oh God, if it had been a dog man, there's a cow would have probably been dead. But anyway, he said that poor farmer, he said it literally, because they've got the big sliding door, on the back. You've got sliding door on rails where you can unhook it and then slide it open to let your cows out, of the mornings or whatever. He said that thing was almost tore off the hinges. So whatever was in there was big enough to tear the rails, break the wood off the rails. And actually, the sheriff's department went out there to look at it. So I don't know. I mean, that's not 4 miles from me. He didn't give me the exact address, but I mean, just guesstimating maybe 4-6 miles from me.
That's close.
Yeah, you can't make this crap up. I mean, it just, all these years, lived in peace. Now this. I mean, I'm trying to keep it lighthearted, but I mean, underneath, yeah, hey, listen, I'm scared to death. I'm man enough to admit it. I'm freaking petrified. I mean,
Oh,
maybe
sure.
I should go get some Depends, to wear in the woods in the morning when I go deer hunting.
Yeah, might not be a bad idea. Hope you never need them though. But yeah, I mean, it's only
But I hope
natural you're
not.
going to be fearful.
I mean, I hate being afraid. Listen, Vic, honest to God, the first plane I was ever in, I jumped out of, for Christ's sake. So, I mean, I'm not being, bravado or trying to sound like a bad, you know, bad A, trying to keep it PG again, trying not to sound like a tough guy. But anything I've ever been afraid of, I've always faced. And, first plane I was ever in, I jumped out of. So these things absolutely terrify me. And people say all they want to. No, they're not evil, this, that, and the other. No, I know evil. I've met evil men. I've been face to face with evil. I know evil. This was evil. What I faced down that night in 2016 was sheer evil. And when I faced those two, maybe three, a couple of weeks later, were sheer evil.
Well, listen to your inner voice. So, yeah, I mean, there have been times where people have gone out into the woods and had that feeling like, okay, it's time to turn around. When people don't turn around and listen to that inner voice, that's when the problems start. But I mean, yeah, I couldn't blame you if you head into the woods and start getting that feeling. It probably would be prudent to turn around and head out of the woods. But I mean, like I said, yeah, those experiences with those evil entities, those dogmen that you said are definitely have an evil vibe to them. They still didn't hurt you. Now you're gonna have people who are gonna say they were restrained by the pact. It's not the end times yet, so they're not free to unleash hell on earth and everything like that. And that might be the case. That just might be why they didn't hurt you. But
I've
we have
heard of this
stats.
before. Yeah.
Yes, sir. It might be what's going on. That just might be what's behind it. But that is a supposition. We don't know that to be fact. All we can do is just deal with what we know. And when it comes to things that we don't know for sure what's going on, just deal with those things the best way we can. And what we do know is you've had all these interactions with these guys over the years, but like I said earlier, you've never experienced a single scratch or a hair in your head being harmed. That definitely counts for something. So I totally get you being scared. I understand it. I mean, you're so far outclassed by these things, even with all of your training and ability and everything like that, your your skills in the woods. But yeah, I mean, you're so far outclassed and you realize it. That's why you're feeling this fear. But yeah, don't feel any shame in that. Just do the best you can to keep moving forward and doing what you do using your best judgment. If you don't think on any given time it's a good idea to head into the woods that day, then yeah, please don't go into the woods. Listen to that inner voice, but you've got a life to live. When we had that conversation the other day and you told me how old you are, I thought, huh, this guy's young. I've got more than several years on you. You've got a lot of life to live, a lot of life left to live.
I
So,
hope so.
oh, yeah, you do. You do. So I hope you do live that life and go out there into the woods and wring every last bit of fun you can out of the woods. Because if you couldn't do that, it really would be a shame. And what are those plothounds going to think about you? What are the blue ticks going to think about you?
Oh, good Lord. Them blue ticks would eat me alive if I didn't take them out.
Oh, I know they would.
Lord, I got to run them blue ticks. I mean, whether it's bear or coon, they've got to run, Vic. I mean, that's what they love to do. I mean, good God, they're born and raised in Tennessee, the great state of Tennessee, volunteer state. By the way, I got to give a shout out to my University of Tennessee volunteers. Let's go up there to Ohio State, kick in that door, kick their hind end, and then come back here victorious. Anyway, enough about that. Sorry, OSU fans, but I love yous. I don't know. Here's another thing that really gets me. These researchers, I honest to God, they have no idea what they're hunting. I don't think, I believe if they really, really, really saw one up close and personal like I did, and I'm not trying to single myself out. Honest to God, that's not what I'm doing here. I'm trying to warn people. You go hunting for these things. Sooner or later, the hunter becomes the hunted. Like I said before, this is not Al Qaeda. This is not Taliban. I don't care what your military experience. You've never faced anything like this before in your life. They're the apex of apex predator. They are fast. They are agile. They are highly intelligent. They use tactics that's off the charts. I have never had an animal smell like cedar to cover up its scent before, like that Dogman did up there in Shady Valley. Never. It's unnatural. So, to all you researchers out there, I'm going to tell you something. You think you know these things, you don't. I don't know them. I don't know diddly about them. But I can tell you this. They are 350 to 500 pounds of sheer killing machine. They will shred you. I don't care if you've got combat veterans on your team. I don't care what they've done. I'm telling you now, if you hunt them and you continually hunt them, you're going to wind up being at the wrong place at the wrong time. And you may just wind up being that 411. So you need to watch your step and be extremely careful about what you wish for, because you will get it. And I've tried to keep this interview lighthearted. But at the same time, I'm going to tell you something. I'm scared to death. These things absolutely terrify me. But, you researchers, you need to be aware. Just be careful. Because sooner or later, you think you want to run into one of these things until you do. And I promise you, you will have an early retirement. I promise you. I don't care who you are. You don't want it.
Those are words of wisdom. They really are. I cringe when I hear so many people talk about wanting to head into the woods and hunt these things. And then there's so many of them that think that just by carrying a gun, that's some form of protection. Well, I've been hammering home the fact that everyone is so outclassed by dogmen and Sasquatch in the woods that carrying a gun, in most cases, it really doesn't give you any advantage, because if they want to take you out, it doesn't matter what you have with you. They can take you out at will. I mean, they have you outclassed with speed, strength, knowledge of the woods, with stealth. In so many ways, they have you outclassed. And I'll go you one further. By taking a gun into the woods with you when dogmen around that you think might actually pose a threat, in a lot of cases, a gun might cause a situation to happen where you're actually harmed or killed. They might make it more likely for that to happen than if you didn't have a gun at all, because you might take a shot at one that wasn't intending to harm you. It was bluff charging or doing whatever,
Right.
or just to try to get a rise out of you. You might wind up shooting one that had no intentions on harming you, but okay, now that you shot it, You just basically sealed your fate. So that's why I'm so strong against the idea of guns protecting you from dogmen. In a lot of cases, like I just said, I'll say it again. In a lot of cases, taking the gun into the woods where dogmen are around, it actually makes it more likely for you to be harmed.
Vicky, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You know, in a unit, we have, you know, we go through the kill house. I've been around some of the top class shooters of the world. These guys, oh my God, absolute fantastic shots. Now, you have a beast that is so huge, so agile, so fast, and you are scared to death. Okay. I'm sorry, your heart rate's up. You've never seen anything like this before. Yeah, it's sure. You may have been in combat before. You may have been in hand-to-hand combat. Fine, whatever. You've never seen anything like this before. Your heart rate is up. You try to skin that weapon system out to try to draw a bead on this. If it's 50 meters out, it's going to be on you. You may have one or two shots. That's how fast they are. And if you don't get that good, clean kill shot, you're gone. Period. People don't understand that. This is not the movies.
You're right. Very well said. With all of your operator experience, you know there's a triangle for you to effectively protect yourself from something like that you encounter that's got it on its mind to take you out. There's a triangle. You have to
Yes,
have
sir.
the weapon or weaponry that's going to be effective at stopping the foe. You've got to have the skills, i.e., having the ability to fire accurately, fire that weapon, the firearm accurately enough to deliver that kill shot. That's the second part of the triangle. Number three, like you just mentioned, are you going to be cool and calm and customary enough to not lose your cool, to keep your aim under all that pressure and fire that shot that's going to be an effective kill shot? There's the triangle, and if any one of those 3 points isn't there right in position, then I mean, you've just lost everything. So there's so many people out there that just have one of those points, one of those 3 points of the triangle, and they think that they're going to be safe heading into the woods looking for these things.
Well, folks, if you're one of those people, you're not. I wasn't. Me and Dano wasn't in 2016. And we've had a ton of experience, a lot of combat experience. I mean, we've seen the elephant, quote unquote, up close and personal, which is combat. And I'm going to tell you right now, we didn't get the job done. Yeah. I mean, we shed some blood up there, but, you know, nobody, nothing. So I think we got lucky. I think the good Lord was looking out for us, is all I can say. And here's another thing: is some of you researchers come up here to Greenville, Tennessee, and I'm talking renowned researchers. You get a hold of Vic, and if you really, really think that you want to come up close and personal with one of these things, which I pray to God we don't, but I can guarantee you I could take you for some sign. You will get some evidence. You get a hold of him and let Vic vet you, and then Vic could get a hold of me. But that's something I really don't want to do, but I will do it because I do have up close personal experience with these things. And I would like to learn more about them. That way I could kind of overcome my fear. I'm man enough to say, yeah, I'm afraid of these things. And, you know, it's like I said, like I've told you all before, my animals are my babies. You know, I've got a new fiance. She's 105-pound, blonde-headed Irish Wolverine's what I call her. And I love her. She's getting ready to move in with me in my cabin. I want to feel safe and secure on my own property with knowledge. I'm looking for knowledge. I'm not looking for BS. I'm looking for knowledge. So, you people out there, it's high end, that's no BS researchers that could teach me some stuff, that could, give me some education, give me some intel on these things. And maybe, just maybe, I could take you to some places where you could get some actual proof. I promise you, I'll get you proof, whether it's sound, visual, or that up close and personal experience, which I pray to God will never happen. If it is, goodbye. I'm out there. You're on your own.
You're a good man, and yeah, I'm pretty sure I could set that up. I'm sure people are lining up right now. Researchers are lining up right now to send me messages and try to get me to set that up. And yeah, I'll see if they do. I'll try to get you set up with some, so you can do that. I know both of you
I
would be
don't
in good
want,
hands.
I tell you, Vic, I don't want that up close and personal experience ever again. But, if I do, it's well, maybe I'll just have a heart attack then, because I'm a heck of a lot older and I've got a lot more silver in my beard than I used to.
Yeah, I can relate to that. It's not just you there. But, well, I've got some questions that people in the live chat have been wanting to ask you. I think it's a good time to jump over to those. I'm not going to have time to ask all these questions, but I'm going
Yes,
to
sir.
pick and choose some of these I want to ask you. The first one would be from Larry Berland. And Larry wants to know, Hondo, what is the blade length of your knife?
My bolo. My bolo is an 8-inch bolo. I had it made in the Philippines.
Yeah, that's more than long enough to let the wind out of that dog, man. That's for sure. Let's see. Me Gravguard wants to know, was it the father in the family they saved that told him not to go?
Yes. Yes, it sure was.
All right. The next one up is from Baby Girl, and she wants to know, how long were the nails on the first dogman you saw?
I'm just guesstimating. I mean, I was within 20, 30 feet from it. 2.5 inches long, maybe. I'm just guesstimating. I really wasn't looking at the claws. I was kind of looking at the face and the body language to see where it was going to kind of, whether it was going to faint left, faint right. Unfortunately, I did not have a weapon. Well, I mean, my mind is my weapon. Just, my bolo is my tool, but I didn't have a firearm, so to speak. So I was more worried about kind of reading its body language and trying not to crap myself.
Yeah, I understand that. I do. The next one up is from Bang Bang, and she wants to know, Hondo, did you get the feeling you were being stalked by the dog man? I think talking about that first encounter.
Not at first, but after my first running with it, absolutely, yes. And I felt that way for a long time until I reached out to Danny Boy, aka Dano, and we went up there and had our little showdown with it. Yeah, I mean, I really did felt like I was being stalked, quote unquote. I don't know if it came on my property. I don't think so, but it's just kind of weird. I can't explain it, but absolutely, yes.
Yeah, it just might have been. Baby girl also wants to know, would you say you have PTSD with these dogman encounters?
Um, yeah, I think I've got more PTSD from my experience as a military. I'm going through that now with the VA here recently, especially after the flood and all the stuff that I kind of experienced while I was in North Carolina helping those people. I mean, it looked like a combat zone over there. Yeah, I mean, PTSD is a real thing, and if you know anybody that's got it or think they have it, please, talk to them, have them reach out to the VA. That's a great question. Thank you. Yes.
I told you before when we spoke for the first time, and I'll say it again. I can't thank you enough for your service to our country. I really do appreciate it. And I just hate the fact that you are dealing with the PTSD as a result.
Hey, you know what, Vic? I mean, it comes with the territory. I mean, everybody's got it at some point. I don't care if you were a tank mechanic or whatever. It happens, and I fought it and fought it and fought it and fought it and fought it. It's like, it's a bunch of crap. Well, you know what? That's that stupid alpha guy in me, and now I'm learning that, hey, I'm not 10 foot tall and bulletproof. If you catch my drift, we're all human. We've all got feelings.
Yes, we are. And yes, we do. You're right about that. This next one up, you've already answered. It's from D Truth. Hey, D. D wanted to know, does he think they're natural animals? And he said, yes, he thinks they're flesh and blood. And the second part of your question about whether he thinks that the earth is actually flat, I'm not going to even bring up because that's another can of worms right there. The next question is from Audacious Amber. And Amber wants to know, hey, Amber, she wants to know, do you think the dogman is born like that or bred like that? Do you think it's natural or some type of altered being let loose?
I've heard of people talking about Nephilim and the fallen angels coming down sleeping with human women. I really don't know. All I could say is these things are absolutely pure evil. I don't care what anybody else says. Oh, that they just they could be friendly. Nah, horse crap. I know evil when I see it. I've dealt with evil men before. I've, taken evil men out. I've been in up close and personal with evil people before. These things are evil. I don't know if they're bred like that. Hey, listen, when it comes to the government, I wouldn't put anything past them. I work for the government, or I did. So your guess is good as mine, Amber. But it's a good question. I don't know. I would love to, figure that one out.
There's so much about these guys that we don't know and most likely never will. It's just one of those things that comes along with all this. It really is. It looks like baby girl wants to know. Yeah, you've already answered this one as well. Her question is, how tall was the first dogman you saw? And you said it was maybe a little bit over, a hair over 7 feet, didn't you?
Yeah, it's 7 because I'm 6'1", and I weighed 196 at the time, and this thing definitely was double my size as far as girth and extremely muscular. I want to say 7.5 foot tall, maybe 350, maybe 400 pounds. It was big, but it was extremely agile.
Yeah, that's a combination that's really hard to wrap your mind around. How big, strong, and fast these things are. It's just not fair. It really isn't. It looks like the
It's
next.
not.
It's not. It really isn't. The next one up is from To Be or Not to Be, and they want to know, did you get the impression that it was intelligent, that it could possibly communicate?
Yes, the intelligence of these things are absolutely off the charts. Now, in my first run-in with them, I don't think it really wanted to talk to me. I think it actually really wanted to kill me. And the second time, well, the same thing, but we kind of kept it busy because we actually had firearms then. So, yeah, their intelligence is off the charts. And, well, look at it this way. I've known a lot of animals that's a heck of a lot smarter than most human beings are. But the intelligence is off the charts. I mean, you're talking about a highly intelligent, mobile, agile predator, an apex predator.
Yeah, there really isn't anything about these guys that's going to make you feel good. There really isn't. It looks like Ian Consul has the last question I'm going to ask, and that is, would bear spray take down a dog man?
Oh, that is a good question. And God, I would be afraid to. I mean, if that's all you've got, then, go for it. I mean, all I had was a knife at first. And this thing, I swear it knew exactly what that knife was. I would say you would definitely get its attention. I mean, it's not as good as a firearm, but hey, listen, you use the tools in your tool shed, whatever you've got. Just remember that your mind is your weapon. Everything else is just a tool. Okay, so if you got bear spray, if that's all you carry, if that's all you want to carry, then absolutely, I think that might give you that out to, egress out of the area. God, I mean, I know it works on grizzlies, so why can't it work on a dogman? I mean, dogman's got senses also. I mean, I know they feel pain. I know that for a fact. I definitely know they could bleed. I just don't know about the dying part, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I mean,
Yeah, thank goodness it never got to that point. That wouldn't be good at all. It really wouldn't. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming back on and sharing these most recent experiences with us, Hondo. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. I just, I come on here more to try to get some questions answered and, just kind of let people know that, listen, these things are, honest to God, they're real. I mean, they're flesh and blood. People, look, I mean, some people might get on here, just to get a good night, scary story. Well, okay, fine. That's all great. But until you run into something, and I was a non-believer. I mean, if somebody told me in 2015, yeah, there's such thing as dogman, I would have laughed at him. I was like, man, you need to go to a nut house. But baby, how I was wrong. And just because I've tried to keep this lighthearted, this interview, doesn't mean I'm not scared. Hey, listen, I'm scared to death. I mean, I really am. When I go in the woods an hour before sunup to get set up to deer hunt, oh, I'm terrified. I mean, I really am. My senses are on extreme hypervigilant alert. So, people, just be careful out there. Pay attention. Stop. Look. Listen. Smell. Yeah, you can actually smell them. You smell cedar. If you don't see any cedar trees, egress out. Egress means get out. Back up. Get out. You've got a bad feeling. Get out. Listen to your gut. Don't be a hero. Just get out.
Those are some really good words of wisdom. And the fact that you're actually able to admit your fear of these things, that puts you well ahead of people who think they've got this under control, but they can't admit that. So, yeah, that's a really good thing. But Having said that, like I said, Hondo, thanks again so much for your time. And in the future, if I can ever help you, please let me know.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, I'm going to continue to keep my diary, and I'll, uh, keep you up to date. I'm not going to aggravate you, or anything like that, but I'll keep you up to date. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening around here, and that's the honest to God truth. And so, yeah, I'm going to keep copious notes and keep my 10 mil handy, so to speak. Hope I don't have to use it on one. I hope they stay away from me, but I guess time will tell. And if you don't hear from me in the next couple of years, well, I'm probably dogman crap.
Hopefully that'll never come to be. I really hope it
If
doesn't.
it
And I don't
does,
think
I
it
hope I
will.
give him diarrhea anyway.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, like you said, if it does, hopefully you will give him some diarrhea at least. But here's to hoping it never does, like I said. Hondo, thanks again so much. And yeah, I'm not going anywhere. Like I said, if you ever do meet, it sounds like you've got a lot of activity in your area. So who's to say that you're not going to have another experience down the road? And if you do, like I've told you several times, I'll be there for you. All you have to do is just let me know.
Hey, Vic, I appreciate it. And all you guys out there, love you all. We're all Americans, and even people around the world. Man, let's try to stay free. Keep it positive, and have faith in the Lord God, because He will protect you. I mean, I'm a prime example. I shouldn't be here speaking to you all today. I mean, in all rights, I should be dead a long time ago with all the stupid stuff that I've done. But, just be kind to one another, man. Respect each other, respect each other's views. Just don't push those views on other people. Just let's coexist.
Very well said. Yeah, if more people practice those policies, we'd be so much further ahead. We really would. But thanks again so much for your time, Hondo, and have a great night.
Hey, yes, sir. Hey, good night, y'all.
Thanks. We'll see ya.
Yes, sir. Bye.
Well, that's another one in the books. I can't thank you nearly enough for joining us for this special midweek episode of the show. I can't thank you enough for supporting these eyewitnesses the way you do. Like I said, I really do appreciate it. And if you've had an encounter of your own with a dog man that you'd like to speak with me about to get help, or if you just would like to come on the show and be a guest, all you have to do is go to dogmenencounters.com, submit a report. And if you do that, then I'll contact you and schedule a phone consultation, and we'll take it from there. But having said that, thanks again so much for listening, and have a great night.